Welcome to Real Tips HR, where we ask the hard questions so you don't have to. My name's Andrew Lieb. I'm going to be your host, and with me today we have our esteemed employment law expert, Mr. Mordy Yankovich. How you doing, Mordy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So I pulled you into this right now because I have a very important question that we're getting. Client gets a payroll audit. What is the line where he should be talking to his accountant and when he should be talking to his attorney? We've got this a few times recently, and I want people to hear out there if they're getting a payroll audit. First of all, what is a payroll audit?
Well, a payroll audit is the department, and usually it's because you have one independent contractor or employee that files a complaint with the Department of Labor.
So one of your people are ratting you out.
Correct.
Got it.
And that happens pretty frequently.
Yeah,
and
they get mad.
Let's say you have a disgruntled employee, they may file a lawsuit. They may go to the Department of Labor. They might go to another administrative
agency. They go poo-poo on you.
Exactly.
Got it.
And if once they do that, the Department of Labor is not just going to limit it to that one employee. They're going to open up the whole can of worms and do an audit.
And when you say one employee, you mean that person you were treating as an independent contractor, and they're claiming they didn't get benefits as an employee.
Correct.
And so where my question comes from, I'm sure you're aware, is that you've been dealing with this where these people go to their CPA and their CPA starts dealing with the Department of Labor, and you know how I started to say they got poo-pooed on? Now they're on that smelly creek without a paddle. So tell me what happens. Where's the line where they should say, done with the CPA, off to the employment litigator?
Yeah. So if the Department of Labor comes and conducts that audit, I would immediately contact the employment litigator because because the way an accountant is going to process the information is, these people are on a 1099. They're independent contractors. These people are on a W-2. They're employees. But that's not the way the law defines independent contractor versus employee.
You lost me there. So it doesn't matter how I fill out my forms.
That's one part of the analysis, but just because you call somebody an independent contractor
why can't I call
and
them
issue them a 1099.
I'm important, I can do that.
But the way the law establishes whether a individual is an employer or independent contractor is by the amount of control that the employer has over the individual.
How do you measure control, though? Is there like a control meter? Like, what does that mean?
The Department of Labor or a court will analyze.
Like workers' comp board would do it too.
Yeah, exactly. Would analyze certain factors.
Give me some of them. Tell me what we're talking about.
So where does this individual work? Is he working on site of the employer? Or is he working mostly at his house or some location of his choosing? Is he required to come into the office 9 to 5, or can he make his own hours?
So flex schedule.
Yes. Is he paid a salary, or is he paid a commission, or on a per project basis? So those are some of the factors. There are more.
So we're going to loop back to my question, but what happens if the Department of Labor says that's an employee? Where are we at?
So if the Department of Labor says that that's an employee, you can be held liable for all the deductions that you didn't take, and what can happen is it can balloon because these agencies share information. So the Department of Labor might give that information to workers' comp.
Let's back up for a second, though, because I see the ballooning.
Yes.
But what you just said, I want to make sure I'm understanding, is that they didn't pay these deductions for X amount of period. They're going to go back and they're going to make them pay.
Yeah, plus a penalty for not paying it when they were supposed to pay.
So it can get astronomical because you said not just this person, all the other people.
Yes.
All right,
and I've seen it happen.
Freaking crazy. So we're going to go back to my question again at the beginning, which is when do we go from the CPA to the attorney? You said at the beginning, and I want to ask more questions about that. But before we go to that question, I just want to understand very clearly one more time. The fact that I paid a 1099, I just gave him a 1099, that's not enough.
No, that's definitely not enough, and that's a common misconception, and that's why you should go to an attorney, because
so what's the attorney going to do?
So what the attorney is going to do is the attorney is going to provide a response to the Department of Labor showing how these people that the Department of Labor are claiming are employees are independent contractors. And
so one second, I run an HR company. I don't, but let's assume I do. And I say to all my employees that are hiring independent contractors, this happens, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I say, you should use one of these payroll companies where the payroll company pays everything. Why don't they have to worry? Like, why isn't that enough? Like, I've heard of there's these companies out there, and what they'll do is they'll say, you know what, we're going to take care of everything. It's an independent contractor, you go to sleep. Why don't they care?
No, because you need somebody that knows the legal difference between independent contractor and an employee to do an internal audit and to
No,
look
we're
at.
not even at that.
Yeah.
So my question is, I have independent contractors. Why am I even responsible if I used one of these third parties to pay them? So that's what I heard. Everyone keeps telling me, use one of these companies. You see what I'm saying?
Because you're the employer.
So I can't like outsource that crap?
I mean, you can, but you're still going to be held to be the employer if you're the one that has control over them.
So you can't outsource liability on this?
Correct.
That's what you're saying?
That's the good way to put it.
All right, so back to, I just want to understand how this goes. So the Department of Labor is going to contact them. You're saying that's when they should go speak to their attorney. But what's the process? Tell me how the process goes with the Department of
now
Labor.
that you say that,
Yeah.
I would consult with an employment lawyer beforehand to make sure don't wait for the Department of Labor to come knocking on your door.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, make sure you're doing everything properly. I mean, look,
So you just shouldn't just outsource to one of these companies that
correct.
does payroll and
look, you might have a disgruntled employee that's going to go to the Department of Labor and they're going to investigate, even if you're doing everything properly. But if you've done proper audits and people are being paid properly, once the Department of Labor comes to your door, you're not going to have any problems.
So let's go back to my question, just because I want to understand. So Department of Labor comes to you, they send you this letter or whatever else.
Yeah.
Tell me how the process goes.
So what happens is they'll send you a letter and they will have written questions. It's not a formal process. They might do.
Is there ever a
differently.
hearing?
So there can be a hearing. So they'll
A hearing meaning they take testimony.
Correct. So they'll send written questions and then they'll
And you're locked into whatever you answer.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then they might arrange a site visit and go over your books, and then if they don't dismiss the claims, then you can request a hearing, and you can have a hearing before an administrative law judge.
So what I'm getting from you, Morty, is that at the very beginning, you need to speak with an employment lawyer. You need to determine if someone's an employee or an independent contractor. You need to act appropriately. You can't outsource to one of these payroll companies. You can, but you can't use them to determine whether it's an employee or an independent contractor. And if you ever get a notice from the Department of Labor, you got to go to an employment lawyer right away.
You said it perfectly.
Thank you, sir.